All right, another episode of Open Bar. I am so excited to start this new series. I don't think that we've come up with a name for it yet, but essentially, what we're going to be going through with Mr. Kevin here, who now is what was the certificate you got?
I am a financial coach master through Ramsey Solutions.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So we're going to be going through financial literacy and how to get the most out of this year. And hey, even if you see this in the future, how to get the most out of whatever situation you're currently in, because the principles do not change. And part of the reason why I wanted to start talking about this is not just because of Kevin's fantastic accomplishment here, but also because I have been going through money changes recently. So one of the things that I did, yes, and as a preface, as we put up there, the information on this show is not financial advice. Okay. You should not consider anything we're saying as financial advice. You should always seek appropriate financial advice from a professional. Now, my opinion, and with my experience recently, I had over 14 different credit accounts. Now, Kevin, let me ask you a question actually before
Sure.
I explain further on this. How many credit cards do you think one person should own?
In a perfect world, I'm going to be honest with you, brother. Zero. If you cannot control yourself with them, if you cannot have any, that's perfect. But in this day and age, with prices through the roof on just about everything, I would say have one to maybe two, and make sure those cards come with some kind of a reward, and make sure that you are very disciplined with them to not buy anything that's not a necessity with them. That's just my opinion.
Hmm, absolutely. Okay. So that's that was one of the mistakes that I made. Essentially, I opened a lot of different credit cards. I opened a lot of different personal loans during the crypto bull run in the past and then didn't pay them off immediately like I should have. And it got to the point, and what occurred for me recently is I took out two separate personal loans, not the best APR rate, I'll be honest with you,
Mhm.
but not terrible. So completely manageable. And I actually took out more money than I need, specifically so I can pay certain things back sooner if I need to. But I closed out every single one of my accounts except for these new two.
Mhm.
So I went from let's just call it 14. So I went from 14 to 2. And when I tell you what a breath of fresh air that was, it was unbelievable. Just to be able to like actually feel like I had control again.
Yeah, and I think that's the most, because at 14 accounts, in a sense, you had lost control, because it is so hard to keep up with that many accounts, even making minimum payments and trying to juggle all that. In that case, I would have recommended maybe look at a consolidation like you did. So I think in that case, you definitely did the right thing. The main thing about consolidating debt is a lot of people look at it as, okay, I took out a personal loan or I consolidated debt and I paid all this debt off. Well, if you've got to change that mindset, because you really didn't pay anything off, you just consolidated. The debt's still there, but you didn't pay anything off. And that's what a lot of people think now. Yeah, you can breathe the fresh air. There's, you know, 13 or 12 accounts that are not on your shoulders anymore. However, now we start attacking these personal loans with intensity like you've never done before to get them paid off. And then
Mhm.
that's when the real breath of fresh air comes in.
For sure. And so let me just clarify here. I have never missed and knock on wood, I have never missed a single payment on an account in my entire life.
Good.
Now, I also have never, or there was one time I was slipping up on it because I didn't realize that my 0% APR had ended. But outside of that time where I probably just, another like $100 every month for like 6 months or something. So maybe I'm like out 600 on that. Other than that, none of my credit cards ever carry a balance, like a interest balance at all.
Mhm.
So I'm always paying everything off. So with me, my purpose with the consolidation here was just to have less places to look at. And I think a lot of times when people come to this point is they're coming to it out of a scarcity mindset. And
Mhm.
I think that I was kind of looking at it from an abundant mindset or abundance mindset. And now let me explain what I mean by that. The abundance mindset here is that if I can free up the headspace that I have to manage 14 different accounts to only have to look at two, and I look at that once a month, that opens up so much mental energy and time for
Mhm.
other things. And so that's where I was looking at it from, and that's why I decided to go this route.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that's a great way to look at it, because yeah, that a lot of people do that, especially with young people. Not saying that, not putting you in this category, but I made the same mistakes when I turned 18 and I was able to apply for my first Visa credit card. I got it $2,500 limit, making 4.25 an hour back then. I'm showing my age because that was minimum wage. And I went out and bought everything that I didn't need but thought I wanted. And then those payments started rolling in with interest. And fortunately for me, I learned that lesson at an early age about how credit cards can really get you in trouble. And unfortunately, nowadays, with the climate like it is, with the prices here in America, a lot of people are buying more things on credit than they've ever had to. It's not just things they want. They're buying groceries, they're buying gas, they're buying, the necessities that they used to be able to pay cash for. And now that that's running out, the credit limits are getting maxed out, the interest rates are starting, they're finding themselves in a far worse position than they were before. So in times like those, not saying that that was your position, but yes, sometimes maybe you need to take a step back, get it all into one or maybe two, so that way you can start attacking it to get it paid off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what one of the other things that I considered with it is, I've got all these assets all across the place, and I'm trying to manage all this. I feel like I'm my own secretary. Essentially, just like pulling certain, not pulling assets, but like I took a portion of this money and I'm putting it aside because I'm also me and the girl are looking to move and looking to potentially purchase a house. So if I have this money, I know I got like this safety net here. I know what I need to pay here. I have my investments here. Like I can pay a lot of this stuff off and I plan to pay it off way sooner. Like
Mm.
that's another thing. I feel like everything today, whenever you take out a personal loan or whatever, it always seems to be that you can pay it off early. Do you know if that's the norm now? Because I remember in the past, they didn't want you to pay it off early. They wanted you to pay through the entire thing.
Well, yeah, of course they don't want you to pay it off early, but that's one thing that we'll have to deep dive in later in the terms and conditions of a loan, because
Mhm.
sometimes you will pay a penalty by paying it off early. Not houses, cars, stuff like that, but sometimes there's a lot of shady, payday loans type stuff that a lot of people use that are not financially literate, that they don't read the fine print, and you get hefty penalties from paying them off early. However, most reputable places, of course, they're not going to encourage you to pay them off early, because if you pay them off early, you skip a bunch of interest, and they're not
Mhm.
ever going to promote that. But they can't stop you from paying it off early. And principal payments are one of the things that I love to see. When I was going through my debt free journey about 2 years ago, and one thing I found, especially I was now, granted, I was overseas, so I was making killer money with nowhere to spend it. At the end of every month, I would put a big chunk down on my house. And I learned really quickly, I didn't miss that money sitting in the bank, but I love seeing that principal of those debts go down. And when I made that final payment on my house about 2 years ago, I had to do it over a wire transfer, and it was $1.50 because I had to pay it down, and they would not let you pay it online. You had to do a wire transfer. So I was on the phone with the lady, and it was $1.50. I was kind of spiteful to pay it down that low, and I made the wire transfer. And me and the lady had a great conversation, because she was like, "Wow, you just paid your house off," and told her a little bit about what I do with Dave Ramsey and that kind of stuff. And then before I got certified, and I'll tell you, when I made that final payment on my house, there was a wait. I was 41 when I paid my house off. There was a weight on my chest that had been there since I was 18 years old, because I had been in debt since I was 18 years old, that was lifted, that I didn't even know it was there. So
Mm.
the principal payments and paying it off early, always read the fine print, make sure that there is no penalty for paying it off early. But yeah, most institutions now, especially ones with any kind of reputation of being good, because the way they look at it, they want you to come back. Even if you pay it off early, yeah, they missed out on a bunch of interest, but they want you to come back. So they're not going to put a bad taste in your mouth by charging you a penalty by doing the right thing by paying off your debts.
Right. And that's what I've been noticing recently, at least in the past few years. I mean, I only took out my first loan back in, gosh, like 2020. So I've only even been leveraging debt or playing with certain things since for 4 years. So like I'm brand new to this stuff, and you're much older than me, and you have a lot more life experience. And so it's been an interesting journey. And it really is crazy that we do not teach. I don't even want to say we don't teach young men. We don't teach anybody growing
Yeah.
up like how to navigate this field.
Yeah, and a lot of times you have to self-educate because they're certainly not teaching it in schools. I took an economics class in junior college, knocking out my prereqs. It didn't really talk about any real life finance aspect. It just basically macro and microeconomics as applies to the business world. And unfortunately, I mean, if I don't know if you're in the same boat, but my parents weren't good with money, so they gave me an example of how I shouldn't be. But anything that I've learned, I had to either learn through trial and error or learn a lesson the hard way, which like I was talking about with credit cards when I was 18, or self-educate. And the thing about it is a lot of people don't really have the motivation to self-educate. That's why, coaches, stuff like this, we do, especially in the minimum now. You get a lot of my services just by being a member, that we can give you the education that you need, the basics, to where maybe in a year or so now you can start doing the consulting, doing the advising, learning how to leverage debt. The main thing is just learning the basics first. And you're right, it's not taught. And a lot of times if it's taught the wrong way, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I would 100% agree with you. It's not taught, and if it is taught or if it is spoken about, it's done in the wrong way. I'm actually thinking about a lot of personal stories that I'm going to save until we move over to the Zoom call.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, if you do want to join the community, we do this every Tuesday. Open bar is for you guys. And then right afterwards, we dive right in and we get deep into the weeds. But Kevin, before we go and before I share the rest of my story, I'm curious, like what are you setting up like with that certification and like what you're doing right now? What type of coaching are you doing for people?
Oh, like I said before, as a coach, there's three types of financial people. You have a financial coach, financial advisor, and a financial consultant. The financial coach, he's on the front lines. He teaches the basics. My program, it's a 6-month program that I've designed and have started implementing. And basically, we do 2 sessions a month, either virtual or in person if you're local. Most people are virtual nowadays. First thing, we talk about budgeting. Then I talk about managing debt. Then we go into saving and investing. Then we get understanding credit, how credit scores work, the difference between earning interest as a reward as opposed to paying it as a penalty. Then we go into retirement planning, insurance, the need for types of insurance and the types of insurance that will work for you, and then taxation. And that's all wrapped up in 2 sessions a month for 6 months. And we deep dive for at least an hour. Sometimes, a lot of times they go a lot more because we get into it. But as a coach, I think it's my job to understand your personal situation, provide information, and inject hope, because that's what a lot of people are missing these days, especially when it comes to finances, because they're seeing they're paying 3 times more for stuff that they paid 4 or 5 years ago, and they're losing hope. And a lot of people just need to know that there's people like out there like me and a plethora of other coaches that I know in my network that are there to be with you along the way. And that's what we provide as coaches. Once we get you to that level, then we can push you off or go into the advisor role where we can start talking about types of investments that we would recommend and types of consulting that we would like to see you get into to build long-term wealth.
Awesome. Oh, that sounds fantastic. I can't wait to hear some of the future success stories because I know that you're only just starting this right now, but I already know that with our conversations and the conversations we've had behind the paywall, like you wealth of knowledge. It's absolutely fantastic, and I'm really excited about this too, because we do gotta jump here. I'm really excited to talk about and helping one of our members budget appropriately so that he can go ahead and move, so he can finally move out. I'm
Mhm.
really excited to set that plan for him. So if you guys want to be a part of these types of talks, or if you want to reach out to Kevin, like definitely hit us up on the Instagrams. I think I got the links below, or you can just join the community itself. But hey, that's another open bar, and let's go jump to the Zoom call.
Sounds good, man. See y'all next Tuesday.